welcome back to the CAFC Charlton All-Time Fantasy 11 Club. I'm your host, Sam Wyatt. And I tell you what, normally I'd be saying, you know, this is a safe space. We don't need to talk about what's going on in the moment, but we've got a draw at bloody Bolton away. Imagine that. Imagine that's how it's gone, though. Imagine that's the king of the castle kind of result. But a draw at Bolton. But it was a good game. Nathan Jones's third game in charge. If you're watching this in the future, wonder how that's gone. But yeah, it looks like he's got the team playing well. A bit of fight about us. So yeah, it's a very positive point. But we're not here to talk about that. We are here to talk about the good time, the actual good times. The Premier League years, the retro shirts, bloody merch. Oh, you can't even see it. Look, it's like a ghost there. Unofficial merch. Love these cups. I get them every year. So yeah, they were here to talk about the good old days and go through our guests 1 to 11 favorite players of all time. And this week we've got one of the I'd call them the YouTube mafia. Came in this year. He's been going for this season's when he started doing these vlogs on Charlton. It is Brazilliance, and I love Brazilliance's blogs. All the guys are great, but Brazilians really gets into the away fans, which I thought was quite unique. And one of the questions I asked him is, how many times have you been offered out for a fight? But apparently none. So, well, none by away fans anyway. But yeah, it's great. It's great to chat to him. We've got kind of similar era of players we love, and Brazilians' commitment this year to going away, home and away, seeing every game. After the season we've had, I'll take my hat off to him, as I have with Joshua, as I have with Tyler. So yeah, it's been great to talk to him. I hope you enjoy this one. Yeah, let's get into it. Welcome, Brazilians.
Hello and welcome back to CAFC, the Charlton All-Time Fantasy 11. This is I say it every time, but I don't want to talk about what's going on in the table. I don't want to talk about what's going on in day-to-day running of the club. We had the directors meeting last night. I don't want to talk about that. It's all very scary. It's all shit. So let's look at the nostalgia. This is the place to do that. We'll talk about the blessed players, but one man who drags himself home and away, and not only that, then vlogs about it afterwards, then talks about it in the ground, meets the away fans. For the love of Christ, I can't wait to talk to him about what that's like, is our guest this evening. I'm very delighted to welcome the fantastic Braziliance. How are you doing, sir?
Hello, Sam. How you doing, mate? All good. Yeah, all good. Yourself?
Yeah, good, mate. And can I just say, you look like the comfiest guest we've ever had on. You look very snuggly. How's it?
Oh, yeah.
Rocking the face.
Nonsense. Yeah, no nonsense. Straight into this. Don't need to have the heating on as well, so I save some money wearing this. So good stuff.
Sensible.
Yeah.
Very sensible. Love that. So, first of all, what's your real name?
Oh, Charlie.
It's Charlie.
No, Charlie. Yeah, Charlie. Yeah, but you can call me Brazil because what it is, my surname is Brazil. So that Brazilian thing, that's like a spin on my my surname. I used it as a gaming alias online and stuff for years, so I've just sort of stuck with it now. Yeah.
It's the coolest name going. I mean, you and Louis Mendes have got the cool names pretty much sewn up. That's pretty good going. So tell me about the channel, because I've heard you talk about it a couple of times, but I'm really interested to know, because you seem to be part of this new Charlton YouTube mafia that's come along. There's a few guys who are, I know you've done the Charlton Chronicles with Josh Wilcox a couple of times and those kind of things. Where did the channel come from? What was the idea behind it? And why the fuck are you sticking with it? Going to every game home and away. Fair play to you. Hard enough watching
no, all right. So first of all, not to have a pop at those lot, but I don't really associate with them in the sense that I'm my own person. So funny, like I started vlogging off the fly, and I sort of just crossed past them by chance. So as far as I know, like Tom, Tyler, and Josh, they're their own little entity, and they've got their own channel called Charlton Chronicles, which I've been on a couple of times now. So truth be told, I didn't actually know about them when I started vlogging. I didn't know of any Charlton vloggers. The only one I knew of was, of course, Jamie Boxall from back in the day.
Yeah.
And I did know of Tyler, but only because of one video. It was a Millwall one. And it was because I saw Millwall fans making fun of it, and that's how I found out about that one. So truth be told, when I came to season, I truly wasn't aware of Josh and Tom, but I've got to know them, and obviously, you know, they're nice lads, and I spoke to Tyler as well, and it's a good bunch, and it's good to see people doing Charlton vlogs and stuff. So for that side, yeah, I've quite enjoyed going their Charlton Chronicles. At first, it was quite, I felt like awkward because obviously you didn't really know them. it is quite awkward. I think meeting new people when you get to this sort of age, like I'm 32, I always find it quite difficult socialising sometimes anyway. And but yeah, they seem quite like a nice bunch. I've quite enjoyed it.
So now you're all
It,
Charlton friends, yeah.
yeah, Charlton friends, yeah. But in regards to myself, it's just really I don't know where it come from, to be honest. So just a bit of background, if you don't mind,
Yeah,
about
please
me.
do.
So obviously I've always worked full time, and I've always had like a bit of a side craft. So before this, it was gaming. I used to compete competitively on video games. And when that sort of went out the window, I was sort of twiddling my thumbs a lot at home, and I used to get like really bored. And I used to follow certain channels, YouTubers in particular. I don't even know Stumpeg. She's like a Bolton fan.
Right.
She does really excellent vlogs, and I quite like away days. A guy called Ellis, and I used to find the like really warming just watching people go around, like talk to people and stuff. And then I've been a part of Charlton Life for about like the forum. I don't know if you posted there, Sam. Charlton Life.
I've seen it. I've read it a few times. It can get dark in certain points, but most of it's
Yeah,
pretty.
it's a pretty good forum. It's pretty balanced. There's a few people on there that are a bit opinionated. I'd say I'm probably one of those amount of arguments I tend to get into. But I think everyone means well, and it's a good site. But what I noticed over the years, especially when I was exiled and not away, well, when I was away from London in Kent, is that I sort of missed that match day experience, and I noticed I had a lot of like American users and people that had like I saw people I think like Singapore, like Vietnam, Brazil, all sorts of places. And I was thinking I wouldn't mind doing my own videos to sort of get them connected back into the game. And that was like the thought process behind it, and that's why I don't know if you notice, I tend to stick to talking to the away fans because I feel like a lot of us know what Charlton's about, and I like talking to these people that I'd have no other reason, to be honest, other than football to talk to them because I'm not going to meet someone from Stoke on a day-to-day basis or Peterborough or whatever, So yeah, that's it really. So I've enjoyed it so far, and truth be told, sorry, I've probably gone on here. Truth
No,
be
please do.
told, when obviously I'm gutted when we lose. I'm fuming. Like you can tell by my videos, I'm fuming. I'm not happy with where we are. But to not talk about it less, when I do the videos, it does sort of give me a little bit of hope, sort of thing, because I like the fact that, all right, I might not be happy, but I know someone's going to watch that video and then potentially be happy off it. I've seen some like lovely comments from Charlton fans and other fans from other clubs, like really get into the videos, and I think that's always like a bit of a safety net for me. Like if we lose, it's like, right, at least if we lose or draw, I can do this content and I can engage with people and I enjoy that side of it. And if we win, it's all great. So yeah, that's it really, Sam. It's been really good so far, to be honest.
Well, I just want to. I want to say a big thank you, and it's not. Your channel's great, but I just love people talking about Charlton because since the Premier League is, and I pretty much say it every video. My big thing is that I've got loads of mates that support Palace, loads of mates that support. I've got United mates that support United, that sort of thing. And all it seems to be is you just turn on telly, Sky Sports, or go on Instagram, and you're seeing some sort of meme or someone talking about them. So for ages, I was kind of in the wilderness, not really knowing what was going on in Charlton because I went away to uni and then had a full-time job where I was working on a Saturday. So just had nothing to go by. So your channel, as well as the other lads, but your one in particular where you are talking to the away fans and that kind of thing, it gives you a well-rounded response of what's going on. And I think the nice thing with yours is you do feel that passion. You feel it in the stands when you're recording there, but you also feel it, that little buzz before the game as well. But my question is, I'm shit scared of away fans. They're in an unusual bunch. I don't know what they're about.
Yeah.
Some of them have got different accents to me. Some of them are old. Some of them are young. Have you ever nearly got stabbed? Has it always been lovely? Has anyone ever tried to call you a Charlton something not nice? Is it all, or is it all? It looks like it's always positive. But has it ever got a bit naughty and you've had to kind of worry about yourself a bit?
Look after yourself. Yeah, no, it's a good question, and if you don't mind, I can talk about it quite a lot if you're willing to listen.
I'm interested. I want to know.
So first of all, I'll be honest, I'm quite a confident bugger. So just because of years of like, I really do give a lot of credit to competing on those games. It gave me such like an air of confidence and like ability to talk in front of people and crowds and stuff. I don't blow my own trumpet or anything, but I was pretty good at the game I was playing, and I was surrounded by good people and like good characters. So from that, I've always been quite confident going into like social situations. because of the jobs I've had and stuff. I've always been quite comfortable to just walk up to people and approach them and talk to them. So that was never an issue. I think the main issue I've always had is just what do I say to this person to get talking to them, which can always be really awkward at first. And I think it was my first game was Leyton Orient, doing the vlogs days, and I had a really bad time with it all. So it chucked it down, and I bought this brand new £700 camera that I was really looking forward to using, and it clearly said do not use this camera in the rain. So I'm like, right, for a start, I can't do the interviews outside, so that's the first stumbling block. And then I approached these like Leyton Orient Charlton fans. It was perfect. It was a good mix. They seemed friendly. I was like, this is perfect, right? And I hit record and it didn't record, and then I basically mucked up the camera somehow, and they were just sort of standing there. I felt awkward. I was like, oh, this has gone horribly wrong. And I thought, you know what, just don't feel like my day, so I'm gonna call it, give it a miss for today, and just do like some other vlog, talk to myself, my kitchen, that sort of stuff. And then my first true attempt of doing the whole interviewing people was at Newport. That was the first time I spoke to someone that wasn't a Charlton fan. And yeah, it was really weird. It was sort of like, getting up the balls to ask out a girl you fancy or something like that. It was but a little bit less. But it's a little bit less worse when you get rejected, I guess. Yeah, so it's a bit more. You get over it quicker, I suppose. But it really is just as simple as I just sort of go up to them and just say, "Hello, guys. I'm gonna borrow you for a second. I'm a Charlton fan. I do vlogs home and away. I'd really love to get you on camera, just get your thoughts. And if you're happy to, obviously, if you're not comfortable with anything, as you said earlier, Sam, I can cut it out. And I'd really appreciate you getting on, sort of thing. And to be honest, it normally is I get normally a good response, to be fair. Like, I've not really had many people get disgruntled at me. I had a Bristol Rovers fan. I accidentally, being a bit daft, I said Bristol fans, just Bristol. I said, yeah, obviously it's Bristol fans. And they were like Rovers. And I was like, oh, shit, yeah, okay, I forgot about that. They're a bit. And then the most flatline thing I did is I approached about 4 Bristol Rovers fans. And as I walked up to him, I goes, "Oh, guys, see it on my vlog. Are you Bristol City fans?" And I knew I'd said it straight away. And I was like, "Oh shit, yeah." And they were like, "Oh, you can get fucked, mate," saying that to us, and walked off. And I was like, "Yeah, that makes sense." And just no, away fans have been really good. I've not actually had like any real issue with away fans. It's been really welcoming. Funny enough, my only barmy's been with a Charlton fan so far. So that was like that was at Pompey. It's not something I can really speak about too much on. I'm not supposed to go on Twitter and moan about whatever, but basically, all it was pretty simple. I was recording, and I heard this chap. He kept saying, "Why is he fucking recording? Why is he fucking recording?" And I thought I'd ignore it because obviously, I don't want to get into a fuffle when I got my little cousins with me and everything. But he kept saying it, so I thought, okay, I'll have a word with him. And I sort of turned around and said, "Look, mate, what's your issue? You keep saying it. I know you're talking about me. What's your problem directly here?" And he was like, "Why are you recording the game? Why are you recording? Like, they could score." And I'm like, "Yeah, no, I know, but me recording don't change the outcome, does it, chap? So I'm going to carry on doing it. It's saying I do, like it or lump it, mate, at the end of the day." Like I said, "Look, can we just leave it there?" And he was like, and then he looked a bit pissed off, and I turned around and sort of someone who was with him, I think, sort of tapped me and just sort of said, "Oh, don't worry about him. He's a bit," I was like, "Oh, okay, And other than that, no, truly, I've been really surprisingly, people are friendly. Like, I've walked into like Bristol Rovers home end, Carlisle's home end, but I didn't vlog for that game because of a few issues. I've walked into like really like Portsmouth. I walked straight in there and just spoke to him. There's been no like, "Here's a Charlton fan, lynch him," sort of thing. Get him. It's just been very positive and like, yeah, I'm willing to get involved in this. So
I wonder, because you always do it before the game, don't you? Which obviously makes sense. I just wonder how that tension would be afterwards. Everyone's had a couple more drinks, that sort of thing. But I've noticed a few of them where it does sound like maybe they have had a couple already. Are there ever any that you're like? I can imagine there must be 1 or 2 that have just left on the cutting room floor where you've started recording. You're like, "Oh, I can't use any of this." Does that happen quite often, or is it mainly they're all good?
Yeah, I've had one sort of person say something a bit, it was just a bit dodgy. It could have got me into some trouble maybe if I could put it online. So I cleverly cut that bit out. I've had a fan. It was surprising actually because it was really nice, and all of a sudden he made a bit of a crack. Again, a certain fan base. I don't want to say it, but yeah, that little bit. But it was a bit undermining. I thought, I'm not going to put that in. It was, to do with their wealth and that sort of stuff, like the area. So I'm not going to put that in. I don't mind them saying things like, even at me going, "Oh, Charlton are shit," or if we're playing, Bristol Rovers, and a Charlton fan goes, "Yeah, Bristol Rovers are shit," I'll put that in because it's not that personal, is it? It's it's about football. But I have had, I think it's 2 times I've had someone say something that's a bit dodgy, and I'm like, yeah, that's getting cut. I
That's
can't
pretty
play.
good going, considering we're like halfway through the season. That's pretty good going. I mean, I don't go to a lot. I don't go to hardly any away games now. I've been to a few over my time, and it's sort of there's always this like you can feel the tension most of the time. Even when you're walking back to the car after the game, normally I walk back and we're walking alongside the away fans, and sometimes you can feel it. Most of the time it's fine, but I can imagine if you're going up and chatting to them, you have to be like you are able to just be friendly and approachable and confident as well. That you're asking their opinion, and to be fair, you're asking them quite nice questions from a point of view of someone who's. It's not like we're winning the league or anything. No one really gives a shit about us at the moment, so it would be interesting to see what it'd be like if we were smashing them in. What's your kind of ambition with the channel? Have you set a goal of like it's just this season, or you thinking I'm going to do this for the next 5 years? Have you got any kind of aims with it at all?
No, so that's a good question, Sphere. I don't. So when I first did it, like I said, the true thing was it's all about Charlton, and I just want to connect people and etc. etc. I did have like a couple of mini goals, to be fair, and like one of them was to actually feature on Charlton Live with Louis Mendes. So I'm actually like a
You
bit
did
of a
that
fan
pretty
of
early.
his.
You were on pretty
Yeah,
early on.
I know, and that was quite. I was really chuffed to that, to be honest. That really made my day. I was shy at the end of the things I wrote down, but I sort of did write down as like a little side. What do you want to call it, like quest or whatever? I said like, hopefully I get asked to go on Charlton Live. So that was really, I was really happy with that. I was really chuffed. I think I had a bit of a blunder, to be fair, because I think I spoke quite well, but this was very early doors, and I weren't as confident on camera then. And I sort of called I said some bad things about the owners, which I should have said, because I know Louis is a bit more professional than me on his channel. So
It is a
yeah,
lot. It is very media. They're very well media trained, aren't they? They know
yeah,
what they
exactly,
know what
yeah,
they can say, what they can't say, and half of them, especially Nathan, I always want to know what's he thinking? What's he actually thinking? Because you can
oh,
see that half of the time you have to take a breath and then you say the answer. Whereas this is
yeah,
kind of like I've sacked off Scott Parker so many times. He's probably
yeah.
going to come around and knock on my door one day. But I quite like the idea that you can be kind of open and honest, and that's kind of the most professional, I think, out of all of the kind of Charlton content there is out there. So yeah, I get that.
Yeah, it definitely is, and that's why I was really grateful that he approached me, because I thought, blimey, if he's asked me to do this, I must be doing something all right. So I was really really chuffed with that, to be honest. And other than that, I have other things to like. Truth be told, I think the views I'm getting is extremely surprising. So I sort of had like a little mini goal that I want to be averaging around 100 to 150 viewers by halfway through the season. I was really hoping my end of season target would be approximately like 500 viewers per video, and I had like this. My ultimate end of season goal was 500 subs. I thought if I can do that, I'll be really chuffed. Like that's like the main target. And then I think like the first video I did got like 500, and I thought, well, that's quite surprising. So I've not done a video, and I think a lot of that stemmed from just 'cause I've been posting on Charlton forums for a while, and I sort of built my Twitter platform up, I guess. And the second video sort of dropped off to about 250. I thought, yeah, that's about right. We'll stick with that. And then it just sort of started to just sort of climb up, and I think Newport hit 1,000, then 2,000, and Port Vale got 4,000. I was sort of feeling I don't know where it's coming from, because obviously I've not done this ever. I've not prepared for this, and it's a bit weird, to be honest. And yeah, it's really it's not like a life change or anything, and I don't expect it to be. I just see it as saying I enjoy on the side. It sort of distracts me from work. It takes my mind away from things, and just going to one of my old jobs as a postman. I used to talk to like a lot of people on a day-to-day basis, and what I realized that a lot of people sort of want to be heard. They want to be they've got a story they want to tell, or they want to be put on a platform. And I don't think a lot of people get it. And I think sometimes in media it can be very mates of mates, and you let your friends in, sort of thing. And I love the fact that I've got sort of like an ability where I can get these people who've got really good stories, where I've had really good stories on my channel, and give them sort of like a platform. Whereas they might not normally, because some of these people would go on for like 5 minutes of my vlog. Before I speak to them, they're not that they don't come across like they're ready to talk. That I've sort of convinced them, and all of a sudden they've got all these stories to tell. And yeah, I think that's the main inspiration. I just love the fact that these people that I wouldn't normally talk to I just give them that platform, and they really seem to enjoy themselves talking. And when I watch it back, it's like I've created something. I've created like a memory for them and me. I can watch that back and go, irrespective of what happens, regardless, I can always watch it back and think, oh, remember when I had a go at doing that thing. And sorry, just to round it off, I will carry on doing Charlton.
I'm gonna cry in a minute. It's making me really
Sorry.
emotional. It's lovely.
No, ridiculous. So just to round it off, I will keep doing Charlton vlogs because I thoroughly enjoy it. But I've also got the aim to, because I've enjoyed being on the camera so much and interact with people. I'm sort of like now looking at other aspects I enjoy doing. So like I enjoy going to like bit nerdy, but like Comic Con conventions. I like going to gigs. I'm sort of thinking, oh, do I sort of venture into this now as well and do that sort of stuff? Do I start watching films? And I've just sort of really enjoyed the whole the camera thing. Once I got past the awkwardness, I've really enjoyed it, and just the amount of doors it's open in terms of talking to people. So, no, I don't expect to be a YouTuber per se and get money. That would be absurd. I think it's such a slim chance. I don't really expect it to go as far as it has for some people, but I'm very happy with just sort of the way it is now. The fact that I've got people from Wigan and I've got friends from like Port, like Stoke, who text me on a regular basis after games and just sort of say, "What did you think of this?" It's like it's just great as a social aspect. So
Yeah.
bit long-winded answer, but that's the answer. Yeah,
Mate, that's what we're here for. That's why this doesn't have a time limit, because I want to know the ins and outs. And it is fascinating. I think I heard you say, I think it might have been on the Charlton Live interview where you said one of the things is you're able to give people that can't get to games that match day experience, and you definitely do that. And kind of seeing it wrapped up in how it works with your personal life is fascinating. Where did Charlton come from then? Obviously, it's a stupid question to ask, but what's kind of your Charlton story? How did you get into it? Who got you into it? And why have you stuck with it?
No, it's a great question. It's actually my favourite question. Like to hear from a lot of people. I'm also going to ask you the same thing. I know you're the host, but I'd love to ask you and find out. So mine is I want to be honest. It's kind of like pot luck. I'm a Charlton fan, so my family all support really weird teams. Like you'd think most people felt making up, to be honest. So I look at my uncles. You got Derby County, Everton, West Ham, Southampton. My mum was a Middlesbrough fan. My nan was a Man United fan. My uncle's a Spurs fan. So I mean, there's no real consistency in my family of football, and I think it comes down to if you look at the teams, Everton. Sorry, my camera's weren't focused here, innit? There you go. If you look at Everton, I think Everton were doing well. My uncle's picked them up. Same as Derby. West Ham's sort of like a local team to where I am. And I had this real thing where they're all trying to convince me to pick their team. So one's like Everton, one's Derby. They even go as far as doing things like my uncle Anthony bought me a Derby County away kit when I was really young.
Wow.
So I was about 8 maybe, something like that. And it was the dead remember, if I don't know if you do, it was like a yellow and blue strip. And I used to actually wear it.
That was a lovely kit.
Yeah, and I used to wear it. I went to like a little football house party and I wore that kit. Probably a bit of an omen actually. I ate too much pizza right, and I vomited all down it and I ruined it permanently. It was stained, so that was sort of like an omen, like, look, Derby's not for you. My nan, and this is the biggest testing point for me, is my nan was obviously a Man U fan, and she bought me, like, as every kid gets at that sort of age, I was about 9 years old. She got me the old Man United, so 1999. So I was 8 years old, 9 years old. She got me the Man United, the whole shebang, Man United bed sheets, Man United bin, all in my room. I didn't have a choice. My mum just decorated my room. Yeah. And I remember watching the Champions League final and watching Man United beat Bayern Munich. And I still didn't feel anything. I was still just like, just enjoy football. And then my uncle and the West Ham one, the Derby County one, and all his sons are West Ham. His son is a West Ham fan. And my other cousin is a West Ham fan. We went to a Charlton game, New Year's Day against Arsenal. And I sort of said, and even then I still wasn't really sold on Charlton. I like Charlton because CHARL, sort of like my name, it fit, like Charlton and Charlie sort of went together. And being a kid, I was like, that's cool. And then I just sort of said though, right, they were like, come on, you got to come to West Ham. And I was like, look, sorry. I said, I didn't say sorry because I was about 10 years old. But I said, look, whoever wins this, that's me set. I'm just going to pick this team and there's no going back. And we beat Arsenal 1-0. And I remember my uncle being so embarrassed because I kept saying things. I kept calling Arsenal players arseholes. So I was sort of already in my football hooligan element before it even begun. So I'm not standing up. I kept saying Arsenal or arseholes. And like they're having to pull me down in the East Stand. And after the
Jesus.
game, that was it. I was just in love. I was like, this is like the best thing ever. And I just stuck with Charlton, and that was it from that point onwards. Just Charlton shirts. I'd pick Charlton on video games, Football Manager. I'd go to any game I could. Admittedly, I don't remember many of them, so I was so young. I couldn't tell you who played, who scored, but obviously, it's part of the matchday experience. And yeah, just no looking back. Just since then, just absolutely loved it. To be honest, yeah.
That's really interesting. And one of the questions I've got, because I think you're a little bit younger than me. I'm 35, but it sounds like we started going sort of similar, probably sort of maybe I was a bit before you. But a lot of your players, we'll get into your team in a minute, but kind of from that era when you were probably going when you were a kid, maybe between sort of 10 and 14, is probably when you're probably most influential. Do you think that your team's kind of based on those being the players because you were that age and you're able to be influenced at that age, or do you think we were just quite lucky when we were growing up, probably between the age of 10 to 17, 18 was probably Charlton's best period in the last since we won the FA Cup? Do you think that's a bit of luck, or do you think that they would have been, no matter how shit we'd have been, you would have picked players from that era?
No, that's a good question. Yeah, 'cause you feel like you associate like nostalgia and stuff. You're saying like you might pick him because I get where you're coming from. You say because yeah, you're right. We were really good, weren't we? And we've not been good since. Yeah, I feel like no. In fact, yeah, I'd actually say that if we were pretty poor, I wouldn't have remembered him as fondly because obviously I wouldn't have been so.
Yeah.
Like you mentioned Scott Parker, obviously. Scott Parker fucking broke my heart as a kid. Like he devastated. I'm not like he put me like. Obviously, as a kid, I didn't know what depression was or anything like that. I didn't understand how the brain works. But I can assure you,
hurt, didn't it? It really
that is probably the first time I felt depression in my whole life. Yeah, and it was a stinger. And see, yeah. I mean, if we were crap back then, I probably wouldn't remember as much, I guess, because obviously I remember us being good at football and going into school and actually being able to talk to people about football and going, oh yeah, we done you the other night on TV. Like, you know what I mean? Whereas now, it's just it's horrible when people come up to you and they'll go, "Whoa, what league are Charlton in now, mate? What are Charlton up to nowadays? What are you up to?" It's like, it's like Jesus Christ, how are you so out of touch with like football? Because I know what team most what league most teams are in, to be honest here. So I find it quite frustrating when that happens. But
all the time, it's constant, and it's not even like it's just mates who support Premier League teams. It's players like mates who I've got. My barber's a Millwall fan. He can't remember what league we're in, and it's not him being insulting. He's just can't remember because he's like, don't give a shit. I also think, and I won't go. We'll get into your team in a second, but when you're a shit team, you're going to change over players and managers more regularly. That's what we've seen over the last kind of 5-6 years. I was brought up when I went to my first game when I was about 7 till I went to university. Alan Kirbishley was the manager, and there was a core of players along that time as well. So not only are you the most influential, the age you're going to be most influenced, but also you've got the same players every week, so you know them for 3-4 seasons. And then now, when I'm looking at the youngest generation now, how do you get into a club that has got a different manager every 6 months, a different player every kind of transfer window? Like, there's no kind of building up of that loyalty. I don't think. I think we were kind of lucky, and I had a bit of I'd say a break from Charlton, but it wasn't. My last season ticket was the last season we were in the Premiership, because that's the first season I went to uni. And then I wasn't travelling back every week because we were dog shit, and I didn't feel like the players really wanted to be there. So it wasn't until Bowyer came in and we started building it up again, you could kind of see this team developing, that I got back into it. And it's kind of your channel and Tyler's channel and those kind of ones that are like, they really drag you back in and get you back involved with it. So my next question, and this is more to do with what's gone on in our conversations off the channel rather than on it. Why were you so bad at picking a team?
Oh, all right. That's just me being indecisive.
I mean, one of the worst. I've never been sent 2 starting 11s going. That was pretty big.
I'm just a bit of a nightmare for it. I'm the same as like, I'm a bit of a big chap for a start, so I love my takeaway and whatnot. And I sort of sit there Monday with what I'm going for takeaways. I mull over a lot of things, and with that, what it was is that I know if I was to pick an all fantasy Charlton team, I might not be as knowledgeable as them as I would be about a player like Johan Berger Munson, for instance, because obviously I was an adult when I started watching him, and I remember every little thing he'd done pretty much. Whereas,
Yeah.
as much as I would rate someone like, let's say, who's similar, let's say Dennis Romerdale, because he played in the wing. As much as maybe Dennis might have been a better player for us, because obviously he played in the Premier League at a higher level, I don't quite remember Romerdale as much. So I was sort of thinking, right, do I go with a team that's more I can remember? But then I sort of realised you said fantasy, so it's just like who would you want as a team? So yeah, I'll go for a little combination and send it to him. But I think I just overthought it for no real reason, to be honest.
No,
That's
it's
just
lovely
me.
to see. Do you know what? That's what creates the conversation, I think, and that's what gets you thinking. It's like, why? You know, you can put parameters on it if you want, but you don't have to. You could, like a couple of players you picked have only played a handful of games or like less than the season or whatever. Some of them have been the longest serving players, and I think that's what the beauty of this is. It's like if you could have your dream 11, if everyone was, fit and playing at the moment, who would you want in the team? And it does look like the team you've got is kind of along those lines, especially at first. Let's dive in. Who have you gone for as your goalkeeper?
Yeah, go for it. So Sam Bartram's goalkeeper. Sam Bartram. Beautiful.
There you go.
Beautiful, isn't it? It's funny because I watched that video a couple of days ago, actually. Yeah, I did. So sorry, all right to talk about it? Is that I'm sort of just
the only things I'm going to say are great hair and no gloves. I still can't get my head around that. No gloves. Like what nothing else. A legend.
It's fascinating, isn't it? No gloves, because I sort of watched it. Even I was like, oh shit, yeah, he's got no gloves on. Like, it must be really weird. And the other thing I noticed, right, maybe I'm like doing that thing where I'm being like nostalgic, but it's just me, or did he just look a lot more nimble than modern goalkeeper? Like, I don't know if it's still the recording or is it sped up, but the way he was like kicking the ball and getting down so low, he just looked so agile, didn't he?
Throwing himself all over the place on a ground that would have been 10 times harder, with boots that are going to weigh 100 times more, with a ball that will probably knock you out if you play with it today. I mean, they just don't make them like that anymore, do they? Really?
It's completely different era, completely different. But I went with him because obviously, you know, he's got a stature. He's the record holder in appearances. He's spoken about really highly of just in general. If you look online, and yeah, if we're talking fantasy, obviously the tiebreaker was him or Dean Kiley, but it's like I just thought based on appearances and yeah, I just sort of wanted to make it a little bit more. I wanted to have one little old school Charlton player I didn't know about, and I thought that one makes sense the most. I thought the keeper you can get away with a bit more, and I reckon that in the modern age, he probably would have held up right if he was a modern keeper. The only thing I noticed about him, I don't know how accurate it is. I don't know if he was quite small. I searched his height out of curiosity, and I think he was like about, which isn't small obviously, but for a keeper it generally is. I think he's about 5'9" or 10.
Oh,
I'm not sure how accurate that
is.
is.
In those videos, he looks.
Yeah, I'm not sure if that's not accurate or not. Yeah, and then I love the fact that it's obviously Pompey, and like, you know, you see their badge and they're just saying to me it's beautiful. I just love cameras, but I don't want to be like nerdy about cameras and videos, but I just love the fact that it's like you can't die if you're on camera. As weird as that sounds, like I know it sounds stupid, but it's like
no, it's beautiful. Like, I'm loving that's like poetry.
Like when I watch like Sopranos, right? It's like I've really loved Soprano. I know it's off tangent. My favorite characters are Paulie Walnuts and Tony Soprano in that, and they're both dead, bless them, right? But when I watch it, it's like they're not dead to me. I still think they're alive and kicking, and like I know that's not the reality, but I just love watching that video. You think all those people there are gone, but they just exist still because we can watch them. There's something about that, and just the fact that, you know, that game so long ago, and Portsmouth fans are still going, so are we, and that's why I'm a bit. Sorry to go off tangent, but that's why I'm a bit more. I come across maybe negative on social media, and like my passion comes through because I just hate the idea of us, you know, a world where we sort of don't exist, and I'm always worried about that. Sorry, we shouldn't talk about it. She said not to, but do you know what I mean? I want that sort of stuff to go on forever for till the end of time, where, you know, we're playing football, people can still watch back old videos and stuff. So yeah, it's just really nice to watch.
Mate, I'll be honest, that's one of the most romantic things I've ever heard. I'm falling in love with you. Also, don't worry about talking about current affairs because I try not to, but it's so hard. Last week we saw Josh Wilcox's come out, and we couldn't not talk about sort of current affairs. And I just, you're right. What's a shame is that I think that the supporters are the same. We still care about the club as much, but it feels like because of the money and because of the owners, the game isn't what it was. Now, I've heard of hot pockets in the crowd. Like I'm sure there were people doing dodgy hot pockets is when you pissed in the guy in front of you's pocket rather than waiting to go to the toilet. By the way, if you're not heard of that.
Oh, what? No, I've never heard of that. What the?
So that's what was going on back then when you're watching all those lovely people. Because you're standing with 50,000 people, you can't just go to the trough at the back, can you? And they're probably all hitting their wives and stuff. But I'm just saying that now what's annoying, I'm not saying it was perfect back then. It's definitely not perfect now. But what's a shame is when you get people like ESI, Roland, they come along and they mistreat the club, and that's what is really hard to kind of, and that's why I'm glad you got things like the forum and cast and that kind of thing where you can hold the owners to be accountable a little bit, but probably not more needs to be done. We're 35 minutes in. We've just done your keeper. Let's crack on. Have you gone for? You've gone for what formation have you gone for?
Oh, so 4-2-3-1, as unpopular as that may be among Charlton.
Lovely. And who's the four? Who's going to be the first to cross your back for?
What centre backs?
Whoever you want to go for.
So I'll go left to right. So Chris Powell, left back.
Okay, let's go. I've muted this video before, but what you're seeing is Chris Powell just coming up and basically doing a tunnel jump when he was manager. He has got one of the best smiles in football. I think there is not a better like that. He's just got so much passion around him. He's just such a lovely bloke. It sounds like a stupid question, but why Chris Powell?
Just first and foremost, I think he's a terrific player. That goes without saying. I can't account for left backs before that sort of time periods. I can afterwards, and I truly think he's been our best left back in terms of performance. Obviously, and the fact he's a manager. Just the term goes around a lot, but he's just proper Charlton, isn't he? And as you said, it's just the smile and everything. I think he's like a captain. He's a leader. He's all those cliches you want to use, and he had the skill to back it up. So it'd always be in my any sort of Charlton 11. And he's been in those big games. We beat big teams with big sides with him at the club. So yeah, it's just a shoe-in. He's probably like one of the first names on the sheet actually, Chris Powell. And,
it's amazing. When I think back to watching him, I don't remember him being particularly quick. I don't remember him being great crossing. I don't remember him being a really tough tackler. But he just seemed to do everything well. He didn't do anything badly. And he'd always give you sort of 7 or 8 out of 10. He would never. And I think as fans, what we appreciate more than anything is someone who works hard. And he just seemed to be so organised across that back four. Obviously, he was the left-hand side of that young fish cost a fortune. I always wish it had been young Powell fish cost a fortune because I think that would have worked better. But he was just in that back line that we were just so organised with. And he made 244 appearances across 3. He went and came back, didn't he? He was across 3 different periods, which is amazing to me. And then he comes back as manager. Do you remember? I'm not as clued up on the time when he was the manager. I know how well we did, but I wasn't there sort of every game. What was it like when he was managing the club? Did it feel different? Did it feel like sort of back to the good old days?
So I'm actually doing a in this in a sense. So I didn't really follow the Power season as much as I would have done other seasons, and that's because of like things going on outside of Charlton. So I only went to, I believe, 1 game or 2 games under Powell's, what do you want to call it, like his time at Charlton. So which is quite unfortunate. So I think most games I'd watch online or I'd watch on TV if they're on, and that was also. That's what we could obviously touch on later, but that's when I was first getting back into Charlton. So for me, I honestly can't really answer that question. I can say from when I was there, it was a good experience. But the game I went to that I particularly remember was back in the Championship, and it was against Palace, and we lost 1-0. And there weren't much of a good atmosphere that night because Palace sold out and they were loud as anything, and we weren't really at capacity, to be honest. And on the night we got done on the pitch, so I don't you know, but you could tell there was no toxicity like there is now. There was no no one got booed off from I can remember, and there was no talk of a manager getting sacked. It was nothing like that. So it was definitely more positive. But yeah, unfortunately, one of the best seasons you could have as a Charlton fan, I'd say, after the Premier League, I just wasn't really a part of. So yeah, I can't really talk about that, to be honest with you. All I can remember is from when I was younger watching him, and when I was a younger lad, I thought he was a very solid player. As I said, I didn't think he was particularly, he wasn't let's say what Roberto Carlos, whatever. He weren't majestic with the things he could do with the ball, but he was just a solid player, and that's what you could ask for, especially a club like Charlton. Not try to talk us down, but we're never going to have, or if we do, it'd be a very rare occurrence. A proper skillful, talented player. It's not going to happen too often, especially not nowadays either. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think. I mean, you're not the first person to pick him. Obviously, he's been picked quite a few times, and obviously, we talked about him getting picked for England and the appearances he made there, and sort of almost the road he carved for Luke Young to go in there, and then a couple of other players after that. But what I think is really interesting is how he's still involved in the game, but on a kind of this sort of behind the scenes level. I mean, he's now at Sheffield Wednesday as assistant coach. We know he's at Spurs as a coach. He was part of the England team as well. I wonder what would have happened. I was listening to Mod Mag's podcast where they were talking to Murray, and they were saying how they only thought he needed a couple more signings, and we could have really pushed on to challenge for the playoffs of the Championship to go into the Premier League. But obviously, Roland comes along then and kind of puts his own stamp on it and kind of wipes everything out. I do wonder, that's one of those sliding doors moments where you think, fuck, if you'd have backed Powell in that Championship season, we had the core, you might have been able to push on even more. But again, it's just a sliding doors moment and bad owners coming in and not really putting everything into it, I think.
Yeah, it's a hell of a lot of mistakes happen when it happens. I mean, because obviously first season went up, we finished 9th, I think, in the Championship, and I remember Borough. I'm pretty sure Borough beat us, and I remember being fuming at my mum, obviously, because she's a Borough fan, and I remember we just finished outside the playoffs I can't remember top of my head now. It was definitely only a couple of points though. It's a couple of wins, I think, and we were right at, pardon me, sorry, we were right up there, and that was our first season back, and I do think we had some good foundations, and then the following season he didn't get the backing like he did with the promotion season, and it all sort of come undone. And I do think, unfortunately for Powell, I am of the stance that I think if it had stayed, I think we probably would have got relegated, because I remember we were rock bottom, and I know we had games in hand. That's always the argument, games in hand. But the problem is that at that point, the football had sort of gone a bit stale, and I think the players were a bit dejected. And I think the new manager coming in threatens, it's not always the right thing to do, but I think it sort of threatened their position on the pitch and stuff, and gave them a bit of a kick up the arse, like that new scenery. But Powell's a tricky one, because I think he's a victim of in football where some managers have their day in the sun, and if certain things had gone their way, they could have gone to whatever level, but unfortunately they get a setback and they sort of fall from grace. Because I think since then he didn't do too well at Huddersfield. He went there and didn't do too well. He didn't do too well at Southend. I think Charlton was like the right fit for him. And I think if he did get backed, we probably could have got into the Premier League maybe after 1 or 2 seasons. But I just think he didn't get backed. He sort of fell off a bit. And I think the catapult effect we had from League One promotion, smashing the points, I think it sort of just wore off. And I think players, when they start losing, they start to drop off in standards. Some of our players doing that currently, to be fair. So, yeah, I don't know, pal. I wish it had worked out. I'll say that much, because as you said, as a human, he's just. I've never met the bloke. I really want to one day. He's just absolutely lovely, and like you said, the smile is just like, it's contagious, isn't it? Like it's just, that's one of those contagious smiles you can probably ever see. Just a real warm character. So I wish it worked out for him. I will say that much. Yeah.
A legend. So right, what are we doing? We're going across the back four. So you're going for one of your centre backs?
Yeah, so we'll go with Mark Fish.
Handling just outside his area, according to referee David Ellery. So often it's the self-inflicted mistakes that are most costly. Jääskeläinen needed to atone. Indecision was everywhere. And with one swing, Mark Fish, once of Bolton, scored his first ever goal at the Valley. Charlton deserved their lead.
Brilliant. Brilliant.
I mean, it's hard to find a Mark Fish. It's always hard with defenders to find a decent video of them because you can't kind of encapsulate everything they do. But that's one of the 3 goals he scored in 102 appearances for us. Why Fish in particular? Because he was part of a really strong defence that was there for a while. Why him in particular?
Right. So, as you said, it was a tricky one with this one. So I've got to just double check my notes on this. So with Mark Fish, there was a lot of centre backs to choose from at Charlton. I was looking at Richard Rufus, for instance, who I did hold in high regards, but unfortunately, because of obviously all the off pitch antics, it's sort of I'm probably should have based my performance on the pitch, but it sort of put me off putting Richard Rufus in. And I don't know why I went a bit more of like a popularity contest in this one. I'm more like drawn to Mark Fish, maybe because of the name and obviously the classic, Fish across the big screen. I think
that's amazing that that's still there because
it's still coming. I know.
It came from. I mean, we used to say Fish, and then we got that was sponsored by someone who had a goldfish logo or something like that. And then now they just keep putting we don't even sing songs about Darren Bent or anything anymore. We still sing Fish. It's insane that's stuck around. Sorry, I've interrupted you. But
no, you're not. No, oh, no, you're not. So I do think there's some sort of like subconscious, like small advertising, that sort of stuff. I think it's just injected in my head now because of the fish thing, and I just think. I can't remember but I'm pretty sure. Again, don't quote me, but I'm pretty sure that Mark Fish played in the 1-0 game I watched, and I believe he was part of the 4-2 against Arsenal as well at Highbury.
It wouldn't surprise me because I think we were young Fish cost a fortune in that game. Yeah, so.
That's what I mean. So I just associate him with a time we were actually beating like proper big clubs, and like I said, it came down to either him, Scott Brown, or Richard Rufus for one of those centre back slots. And I just think I took out Rufus because I probably shouldn't have done, but again, I fancied Fish more, so I liked him more. And then Scott Brown was sort of before my time as a fan, but I appreciate. Well, no, it's about the same time, but I was too young, and I started supporting when Fish and Rufus were about. So yeah, it was between those two, and I went with Fish just on. Let's just go with the name. I think is his name.
I'm seeing what you were saying about being indecisive now. It's fine. Lovely. What about for me, I've got a couple of main memories of Fish. He came with quite a bit of. It was called the Big Fish when we got him because he'd already played a lot of games in the Premier League with Bolton. He'd been around for a while. He played 62 appearances for South Africa as well. So he was an international player. He was doing really well. My biggest memory of him, though, is him getting injured because he fell through his own glass table at home. Do you remember that? And lacerated his leg or something. So he's at home, his kidney falls through a glass table and he's out for the season. And I just remember thinking, how the fuck have we got a player injured from just being at home?
That is
wound me up.
That is mad. Yeah.
He was a big lad, but only 3 goals as centre back, which I mean, considering he was quite big and was always in and around the box, you'd think he would have got a few more. But I just, again, like you, I remember he had a ricket in him every now. I think he's a bit. Ryan Innes is probably the closest we've had where I can imagine him clattering someone and maybe getting fouling someone when he needed to, basically. But he had a big old presence. He was a great player, though, and again, he always played with a smile on his face as well. He seemed like a good bloke to have around the place. And I don't know if you've seen any picture of him now, but he has had one of the biggest glow ups I've ever seen from a Charlton player. He's like Mr. Handsome now, so keep an eye out.
Yeah, all Alexander's. Yeah.
All right, the great choice. Other centre back.
This one was so Joe Gomez, and yeah.
Oh, sorry, I've gone into the video.
Nah.
Oh, I've muted it as well. So yeah, this is just like one of the new highlight reels where they always have like a really dodgy track over the back of them. So I've taken that out. But I think, so yeah, I mean, completely different style of centre back and very modern. Obviously, still playing for Liverpool. Why? Seems like a silly question. Why Gomez?
So the reason I picked Gomez is because first of all, I think he's genuinely what I'd say is, he's a world-class talent, and I don't think we've ever had many of those, to be honest. I don't think we've had many academy players come through that I'd actually say are world-class talents. I think in my lifetime, Parker was one, but I think Gomez exceeded him in potential and actually achievements, obviously. I just think Gomez, if you think of the fact that he could play right back, and he could play right, Joe Gomez probably play anywhere on the pitch. From honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if he played striker. He was that talented. Do you know what I mean? And I just think if I'd Mark Fish as like you're no nonsense, you get stuck in, as you say, Innes type, who's gonna win headers and clatter people. I always like to have a centre back paired up with him that can pass it a bit and also get us out of trouble with his pace. And I think Gomez was just absolutely, just when he first came into that team, it was beyond obvious that he was going to the very top. There was no doubt about it. And if he didn't get the injuries he's had at Liverpool, he'd be regarded as one of the best centre backs in modern football. I'm convinced of that because he's just absolutely had players on toast and strings for as long as he's been playing. And if you look at his attitude as well, he's come back from two, you'd say, well, definitely one, certainly, career-ending injuries potentially, and he's still playing for Liverpool. That's just a testament to him as a player. And I know it's like a really random thing to point out, but the moment I was like, yeah, this lad's the real deal, is I'd seen Joe Gomez against like every other striker in the league, and always held into a high standard. But I think one performance stood out to me was he played against Daryl Murphy, and I think it was when Daryl Murphy was at Ipswich. Again, I might be wrong. Sometimes I get a bit my wires crossed, but I think it was at Ipswich, and he really dealt with Daryl Murphy. And I thought, right, so Daryl Murphy's like an experienced striker. He's a striker that's been around for years. He's what you class as like a target man, big shithouse, and young Joe Gomez, teenager, has just absolutely just swept him up, just dealt with him comfortably. And on top of that, he's quick, he can pass. I thought, yeah, this lad's gone to he's going, sky's the limit. He's going where he wants to go, frankly. And yeah, so Joe Gomez is a no-brainer for me, no-brainer, like going in the team.
What's amazing is he has that big of an impact, and I never saw him live. Embarrassed to say, but what's amazing is you're not the first person to pick him, but he had that much of an impact, and people saw it so quickly. And he only played 21 times for us. Like he only had 21 appearances, and he came from our academy. So it's not like he's built up a massive professional career before us. He came in, he was amazing, and then we sold him to Liverpool for nearly 5 million. Like that's an incredible thing to do in that short a time. What do you reckon he goes on to do now? Do you reckon he gets, because he's not an out and out choice for Southgate, far from it. Do you think he gets back into the England team? Do you reckon he goes on to win a World Cup or anything like that? What do you think he stays at Liverpool?
It seems to be in Liverpool's plans. I think Klopp seems to like him, especially since Klopp's moved Trent into that centre mid role, hasn't he? He seems to be getting more game time at right back or centre back. I don't know what's going to happen with Gomez. I don't know. I know he's been linked to a few clubs. I know he got linked with like Aston Villa before, which would be quite amazing to watch. To be honest, if he went to Villa, like I said, have potentially Konsa and Gomez playing together. That'd be something special.
That was what I was going to ask you, because you say like we haven't had a well beaten. I'm not saying they're on the same level, but
yeah.
What do you think about that, kind of those two coming through at sort of similar times and being centre backs and sort of similar style centre backs as well? I don't know if they've even ever played together. Was Konsa ever a consideration, considering you're going for sort of Gomez is kind of close to it?
No, Konsa was exceptional, very good player as well. And if you watch him now, he's really grown into like a really good player, and he's arguably Villa's best defender. A lot of them say he is their best defender because his passing range is really good. He cuts through the lanes. He's obviously quick, and he's done really well at Brentford as well. I think the reason I didn't mention him is because Fish was sort of like a lock-in, or Rufus as like my centre back Marshall, and I wanted to have someone alongside him who was a bit more nippy and nimble. And I just think that I think Gomez is better than Konsa. I think that, again, the only reason why Gomez isn't highlighted as much is because of the injuries. But again, that's just a testament to Gomez rather than Konsa. I think Konsa's a very, very good Premier League player, but I think Gomez is like, you know, he wouldn't look out of place in a Real Madrid side sort of thing. That's how much I rate him. So,
Yeah.
and I did consider also Konsa for right back or even Gomez at right back, but because that isn't their station, you know, their main role, I thought now I'll leave one of them out, and I think Gomez had to, Konsa had to go in the end. But yeah, I mean, it's just so frustrating that at one point we've had in that sort of time frame, we had like Gomez, Konsa, Pope. That would have been like our back, you know, Goldie and two centre backs, and it's just Jesus wept. That's
But
just
now you've got Michael Hector, Jones, and Maynard Brewer. I mean, it's basically the same. It's the same.
It's identical. Yeah, it's identical.
You mentioned the right back. Who have you gone for?
So I went with Luke Young, right back.
Good defending from Christian Ziege. Just covered around Anthony Gardner. You could see that Gardner was going to be in trouble. Again, just look at the room that Parker's having in midfield.
And this time Young gets in behind Ziege. Good save by Sullivan. Oh, you can imagine how overjoyed he'd have been if that one had gone in.
Wow, what a chance. But again, look at the room that Scott Parker has to play that ball in behind Christian Ziege. He'd be very disappointed, Luke Young, because it's waiting. But he hits Neil Sullivan's legs.
Not scoring there, but coming close, and that's pretty much what Young did. I like that game though, because that sort of shows that that's one of our best ever lineups. We ended up Powell was in that team, and a couple of other choices that I won't ruin now. Why Luke Young?
So this one was again just limited options. So I did also have Chris Solly down, and like I said, Konsa and Gomez. The only reason I went with Luke Young over Solly is again the level he played at and the amount of Premier League games he played. I thought it's hard to just leave him out. Which I find ironic, by the way, that in a goal highlight he got there but didn't quite get the whole way, which is sort of like Charlton through and through. But yeah, I just think, as you said, he was part of that back line. As that's like, I just think it was one of the ones where I remember again when I was being good, him being in the team. So I've got that bias towards him. Watching when I was younger, and the only other person I really did see as a genuine competitor for that spot was Chris Solly, who I would like to have included. But again, Solly had his own issues. You know, he had his injury that set him back, denied him a move. He never played at a top level, and things obviously ended on a sour note with Solly as well. So that was the reason why I opted for Luke Young over him in the end. I thought, it's got to be Young.
I agree with you though. I think Luke Young is he's that level above. He played for England. He had a few appearances for England. He goes on to have a big career after us as well. He was player of the year in the 04-05 season for us. I think he's another one like Powell who just did everything well. Like there wasn't any, you relied on him 100%. And that back line, when you look at our back line now versus our back line then, like the worlds apart, like completely different. In terms of just that whole back line just seems so reliable, and you knew that no one was going to make a mistake, but also they might create a chance as well. Whereas now there's a wicket in every player, and you're just waiting for it to kind of come.
Fabian rude as well. It's just men against boys. If you look at the sort of character Chris Powell was and put him up against Teo Eden, there's not even any. There's no similarities whatsoever. And you compare again Young to Tenar Watson. It's just not. I know like a different level, but I just more mean stature as well, like character on the pitch. They're just not that. They don't look like leaders to me. I think the only one who does look like one is Jonesy. Lloyd Jones looks like the type, but I think he's also a bit meek, to be honest here. Like I think as much as he's a tall lad, he's a strong lad. He wins headers. He doesn't have that character to me, like a Marshall centre. He's not like a Jason Pearce, is he? For instance,
no.
And I think Hector's a bit too blasé. I think Hector thinks he's someone who he ain't, sort of thing. Like, don't get me wrong, he's had a pretty decent career up until us. But we've had a few of these sort of players that come in and think they're above the level and sort of a bit blasé when they play. And I just think, as you say, you can look at them. Like you look at if you go Gomez and Fish against them, it's just not even. It's not even a conversation, to be honest. Yeah. Right.
I think what's coming clear is that everyone you've picked, including Gomez, really, they were like, Gomez is probably that one where he's just ultimate talent, rather than everyone else you picked is just there for Charlton, and they don't think they're bigger than the club. They're there to do the job. They want to do the job. Whereas at the moment we've got so much complacency. What I think the biggest problem we've got, and probably Scott Fraser's the worst for this, is they all think that they can turn up and win a game when we haven't won a game for fucking ages. So what's incredible is that how bad we are, and yet it seems like they all kind of treat it like they're so much better. Dobson doesn't, May doesn't, but again, I can't think of a leader amongst them, whereas Bartram, Fish, Young, Powell, I'd have any of them as captain any day of the week.
Exactly. It's just captain the back, yeah, all day, all of them.
So you've gone for two. I mean, in the image you sent me, it was two sort of defensive midfielders. So who out of those two centre mids, defensive mids, do you want to go for first?
So Kij first all day, yeah.
Yeah, that game. My friend yesterday remember me that game, and I watched it. But it was quite even. I won many balls against him. Also, I kick him, of course, because that kind of player is very difficult to catch him. But I think when I watch the highlights of the game, I did it all right. And then we changed the shirts. That shirt's still at home.
Do you remember that game?
There you go, says it all. No, I don't. That's what I mean. I'm too like young to. It's so. I feel sorry for like even myself or fans younger than me that although whether or not you were there, you probably don't remember the impact these players had because obviously you could, you know what I mean. I could barely remember what I had for dinner last week, let alone I remember. You know, do you know what I mean? Only certain things stick with you, and like as much as that had been a good performance by him, no, I don't remember it. I can only say that I watched it, but then I don't. Does that make sense? Like so. Yeah, it's like that for me at the moment with a lot of these games.
Just remember Ronaldo turning up with so much hype, and he had his little dip-dyed hair. Yeah. He had that terrible jumper on when he did that press conference when he got signed, and then he turns up at Charlton, and Kishishev and Stewart just basically kicked him all over the park and didn't give him a second on the ball, and I absolutely loved it. I was like, yeah, that is what we're here to do. Yeah, tell me why Kish?
So that was just an easy choice. It's just based as you saw on the pitch, just someone who just gets stuck in, wins tackles, classic DM. Again, I think in those big games we won in the Premier League, he was part of most of the lineups. A lot of the time, it was either him. Normally, like Holland would be involved, Kinsella, those sort of players, and it was really hard to leave Holland out actually, because obviously, as we'll show you quickly, Holland is he's the main man normally. I love Holland, but I just thought of again like what the best team would be, and I thought if we were playing against any sort of team, that's someone who can take someone out of a game. That's someone who can just ruin someone's game essentially. And with the amount of flair I had on the wings in the rest of my team will go into, and especially in my cam role, I thought it makes sense to have someone who just breaks up the play and is a perfect water carrier. I mean, we look at Dobbo, and I love Dobbo to bits. By the way, he's one of my favourite Charlton players and someone that I'd always hold in high regards, whatever he does. It's like people don't realise the kind of players we used to have, and like Kij is like Dobbo on steroids. You know what I mean? Like just everywhere, and just so yeah. That was it was either gonna be him, Kinsella, or Holland for that first, if you want to call it like, you know, what do you want to call it, like number 4 maybe. It was between one of those three, and I just went with Kij. I felt like he was the best defensive mid out of all of them, in my opinion.
Well, it's interesting you called him defensive mid because he was bought as a right back and then got moved to right mid, and then he sort of tucked in. But what is really interesting is the main thing he did was break up play and just be everywhere and are basically a bit of a bully boy. And what's interesting is hearing you say that is I think he's more like a Darren Pratley than a Dobson. I know Dobson does all that work, but I think Dobson actually's got a bit more of a final ball. Like when again, don't want to go over old Graham, but when like that Cray, I know it was only Cray, but the balls that Dobson played and the goal he scored, it was like watching Paul Scholes. Whereas Kishishev was just an absolute workhorse. He was everywhere, and I associate that more with Pratley than I do with Dobbo. I don't think Dobbo could do what Kish did at the level he did, but I also don't think that Kish could do that. Didn't have that final ball on him. He was more win it, give it on to Holland, and when you've got Holland or Parker or Jensen around you, you don't need to do that really.
No, you're quite spot on actually. Because Dobson he does have a really good passing. He's got a good passing range, Dobson. And I do believe that I think people are a bit barking bloody mad, to be honest, with Charlton at times, because they'll say things like, oh yeah, Dobson goes, it's all right. It's like, no, it's not all right. I can assure you, because like if he had players around him of a similar caliber,
Yeah.
you wouldn't even notice Dobson as much, which is a good thing, by the way. You're not meant to notice midfielders, typically speaking. They're meant someone that role's meant to keep the game ticking and make less mistakes. But
Well,
the reason
like Matt Holland was the invisible man, wasn't he? Matt Holland, you'd forget
exactly.
like you wouldn't see anything he did, but
and that's
exactly
not a bad thing.
Yeah,
It's not necessarily a bad thing, and I feel like we're seeing him do too much of anything. We're seeing him do these passes to break up play, these passes to switch the play up. We're seeing him crunch tackles. We're seeing him chase people down. He's doing the work of two men a lot of the time, and I think it's really important we keep him. But it sounds like we're not going to keep him. But as you said, I do think that Dobbo has the ability to play a bit more, but at the same time, as you said, because against Cray, and they're an amateur team, aren't they, essentially? I just feel like when we're against better teams, his passing doesn't always come off. It doesn't always.
I'll be honest. I think he just doesn't take the risks. I think he would rather try and kick the ball and do the right thing, whereas Craig, there wasn't as much pressure on. But when you see him hit the goal he scored and the ball he played for Alfie May, like that's the best thing since Parker. Like.
And the May finish as well. The May finish was unbelievable against Cray. It was brilliant. What a player as well, May, by the way. Like, testament to May, because I was actually considering putting him, which is bonkers, but I was actually thinking about, do I put my team on like a bench or something? So, two great players.
I think one thing that would, and again, don't want to go on about today too much, but one thing I think Dobbo would benefit from, and I appreciate him doing the job that he's done, but I think if he wasn't the captain and you gave it to May, I think that might release some of the pressure from him, because what Dobbo isn't good at is talking everyone up and getting everyone to play and really force them. What he's good at is doing the work, playing and sort of leading by example. Whereas May seems to chat and he talks to people and he really builds them up. Ideally, what you want is someone to come in this transfer window who can do that, who will just talk. And I think, again, that's what Pratley did. He kind of, if he was having a shit game, he can make people around him have a good game. But what Kish did was kind of just make everyone around him not have to worry about the defensive side of the game effectively, because he was just a bulldog everywhere, all pretty much across the pitch as well as up and down it. He just would be a terrier, getting you the ball back and giving it on to someone who could do something with it.
Yeah, no, spot on. And I think you're right about the captain thing. It's he's definitely a player leads by example, but I've always said he's not a captain. I've been on like forums and had a few like lols, like people like interact with my posts, like lols and like a negative thing. And on Twitter, I had people go, "Are you joking?" But I think they take a bit personally sometimes when I say things. I don't mean that he's not cut out to be like a Charlton captain per se. I just more mean his character suits more as someone who, to me, is like a perfect deputy. Like, so if we had a proper centre back as captain, he's the kind of person who can talk to Dobson and go, "Fucking Dobson, sort him out," sort of thing. Like he'd communicate with him. I think when it's all up to Dobbo, it's not the best idea. I think one of the most important things we can do is get a centre back in who's got that leadership and captain quality, because we're really missing someone who has that personality. I think the person you highlighted is one of the only ones that does have it, Alfie May. I think the rest of the team doesn't really have it. Like none of the wingers do, none of the midfielders do, none of the centre backs do,
and
our goalkeeper definitely don't. Yeah.
Like when we finish your team, you'll look at it and you'll go, "Well, yeah, you've got 3-4 players up front that didn't do that. They weren't there. They weren't there talking everyone up, and they were just leading by example." Corey Blackett-Taylor is probably one of the best examples of the team we've got at the moment, who just does his job and does it well, but suffers because he hasn't got those people who are supposed to do those other jobs doing it for him. Hector was supposed to come in and be that player. I'm 100% sure of it. But when you look at it, it's probably his last contract. He's probably sitting there going, "I'm just going to make sure I get this money tied up, and then I'll go on and be a coach or something." He's not there. He doesn't care. It doesn't seem like he cares. And I think he's been better, but he's definitely not. He's not like, if Charlton don't get into playoffs, I'm gonna that's the end of my season. He's not. He's done it, hasn't he? He's been at Chelsea. He's done bigger and better things. It doesn't seem to mean anything. Whereas Dobson, I actually think this could be Dobson's peak. I think that he's got the ability to go and play in a Championship team, but I don't think he'll be playing week in, week out. I think he'll be the player they bring on to kind of settle things down, or take off to bring on someone who's going to kind of tidy things up or whatever. But I don't think he'll be a Mr. He's basically Mr. Charlton at the moment, and he's got an opportunity to be a legend. I really hope he does tie up that deal, but God knows what's going to happen.
Spot on. Yeah.
All right, so we've got one of your sort of DMs, if you like. Who's the other one?
So, unfortunately, Scott Parker, Snake himself. Yeah.
Jensen. Ewell. Parker fancies another dip. Oh, look at that! Did he take a deflection on the way through? Doesn't matter much for Charlton. It's 2-2. Scott Parker's got them both. Now take a look at this. Does it deflect? No, he just bends it.
What a goal.
It's ridiculous goal. Ridiculous.
It hurts now. It hurts just watching it. It hurts.
It's also that bloody kit. I really wish we still play. I really wish we had a yellow away strip. I really like that, like vibrant yellow away strip. And also, these fucking players might need it because they can't find each other on the pitch. They might need a bright yellow kit to actually pick out a pass. Because I actually miss a pass when you got that bright thing on the pitch. But yeah, what a goal, and yeah, what a player. I have this really weird thing like where, and obviously some Charlton fans will think I'm maybe like a Judas for saying it. But I've got some real weird thing in my head where one day he comes back to us and gets us back into the Premier League as a manager and just makes up for what he's done. Because I'm very much a person, I'm quite forgiving. So I won't forgive, for instance, Lyle Taylor, because what he done was essentially down tools, fucked us over, and has spoke shit about us ever since. Yeah, Scott Parker, on the other hand, as much as he's a snake and he broke my heart, right, as a kid, he gave the club money. He played fucking well for us when he was here, and he put a shift in. I know there was a bit of drama towards the end of it, but when he's left, he's not exactly spoke bad about us. He's never talked us down. He's never like berated us. He's never like tried to stir up shit on social media. He sort of ignored us. And when we played against him, against Fulham, for instance, I think that's the last time we played him. It was Fulham Charlton. As much shit as we gave him, he never like gave. He didn't seem to really give it back. He's sort of like a proper professional. So as much as I've always got that. I'm always annoyed that he left. He's never really like put us in a bad light, to be honest. Like, so it's quite hard for me to hate Parker. And I do have this, football fantasy per se, where he comes back and he just gets us promoted because it's always worked with an ex-Charlton player. And I think that is something that's just like, to me, that as cringe as it might sound, that's like destiny. I'd love that to happen, for him to come back, sort of redeem himself, get us promoted in whatever league it's in, because it has been Championship. We wouldn't drop down to League One. It has been a Championship, and I'd be more than happy for that to happen. As much as some people might disagree, Scott Park came out as a manager. I'd be more than happy with that. I really would. So,
I have got absolutely nothing to say. I'm not saying a word. I can't bring myself to say anything about it. All I would say, I don't think you're wrong. I don't think you're wrong that since he's gone, he hasn't talked any shit. I think that Bowyer actually, as a fan, when I saw Bowyer come back and play against us, I remember him giving us more shit as a player than Parker did.
Yeah, because that's his character.
Yeah, he was a nasty little bastard. But with Parker, I think that, and I've said it 100 times. He got sacked after 12 games at Bruges. I think that's karma, and I think best of luck to him.
He done a shit job there. Yeah, that's an easy job as well. It's an easy job.
He absolutely. That's the first time as you said, I wouldn't call it depression, but I was heartbroken, like genuinely heartbroken, and it was, like he stopped training, and we were on this trajectory, and then just went downhill from there. But no, I take your point. Everyone's got this is the forum for this. This is airing that. I mean, you're going to get a lot of shit afterwards, but fair play to you.
it's as you said. We don't know what would happen to us as a club if it had stayed, because at that point, I've seen a lot of Charlton fans say this as well, is that he was in a position where, similar to Dobson, but in a much better position, where he was guaranteed to play. He had all the attention on him, and there was a lot of clubs going through transitional periods. So Man United were on the verge of losing like their centre mids, in terms of, like, you know, people getting on, being moved on. Chelsea was sort of at a point where they were like overrun with players of anything. They'd like, because they'd just been taken over. They had too much juice at the moment at that time. And Arsenal also going through a bit of a transitional period. And I do think that if it had stayed with us and sort of just seen that season out, he could at least have just sat there and said to himself, right, I did what I could for him. I'm going to move on. Sort of as like Declan Rice did, I guess, yeah, for West Ham. And like, I think if you're a West Ham fan, you give Declan Rice grief. You're a bit of a fool, to be honest, maybe, because he went to Europe, a bit of a dodgy European Cup final, but he still won one with them, and he done a lot for him. And I think if he'd have done that, it'd be held in high regard. If he'd just seen that season out, give us that chance to get in Europe, and if we failed, we could have just gone, yeah, at least he gave it a go. I think it is bad blood, because obviously, as you said, he did down tools in a sense. Like he did push for the move, not quite as bad as Lars Taylor did for us, but he still pushed for it. And it's just a shame, because I think he could have gone on to be a really good player if it made the right career move. I think going Chelsea sort of fucking ruined his career, to be honest.
Absolutely. I think he was just bad advice at the wrong time. I mean, you've got to be a hell of a humble player to turn that down. To say, look, I'm looking at this team and I don't think, I'm not going to guarantee I'm going to be there. Also, to have the foresight of going, well, that manager might not be there for as long as I'm going to be there, so I'm not getting any commitment. But leaving halfway through a season is always a risk, and you know that's why January transfer window is so hard, and whether or not we can judge Appleton fully on this transfer window and how he does from this. I mean, personally, I will, because I think he's been moaning too much about the players, and we are where we are, and I'm hoping that he hasn't got as many excuses after this. But in terms of then, to think like he was such a big fish in a small pond, he had all the spotlight on him. Like, he scored 2 goals that day against Southampton. They were the best 2 goals I'd seen by Charlton all season. We lost that game, but I still came away feeling like, fucking hell, like we're going to do something. So still to be able to give fans that even when we lost. And he was starting to, I don't know if he was breaking into the England team, but I think he was on the radar. So yeah, you got to be a humble player, but I think he's just jumped too early.
I think back then as well, the England team was just an absolute nightmare to get into. You obviously had Lampard, Scholes, Gerrard, Beckett. There was too much talent. It was stacked. Same as Chelsea.
Well as Cole, and like it's not like it was only a few. There was like 3 or 4 layers of players that could have gone
exactly. Through. It was very, very stacked, and I think that's why he didn't get in there. But if I just also ignore what happened with us, I just look at what he did for the rest of his career. So obviously, he captained us, like England, that is, in the 2012 Euros, didn't he? I believe it was. I think and played for Fulham, played for Newcastle. Who else did he play for?
Was he West Ham?
I think he. Oh, I'm not 100% that. I think he was. And of course, Spurs is another one he played for, and I think he captained Spurs as well. So he had a very respectable career after he left us, and he did play for West Ham 113 times. Don't know how I've cut that out of my head somehow. If you look, like 119 times Fulham, 50 times Spurs, 55 times Newcastle, only 15 appearances for Chelsea. That killed him off. But
that's insane, isn't it?
Yeah, but if you just look at that career, he had a real good career, and again, another player that just fits into that mold of sort of like a captain on the pitch.
It's funny you say that, and you go, that's a good career, because I look at that and I go, well, you went to Chelsea and you only played 15 times in that 2004-2005 season. Then you go to Newcastle, who was sort of, weren't they just coming up from the Premier League or just about to get relegated?
They were pants when it went to them,
Yeah. And then West Ham, who, at the time were on sort of similar level to Charlton. Spurs, fair enough, but he only plays 50 times for Spurs. And then you go to Fulham, who arguably at that time, they were better than Charlton then, but they weren't a bigger club when he left. So for me, he fucked his career. Like if he, like you said, if he waited till the summer and gone to Chelsea then, or gone to, because by that point, Lampard's established himself by the summer, and Joe Cole's established himself as this sort of great player, so there's no space for him. Then you look at it around that maybe you go to, I don't know, Everton or something like that, who would have been knocking around that top 6 or 7. Just take a breather and see. But yeah, I can't say, I can't really say anything nice about Parker at the moment, just because
No, fair enough.
More than your first heartbreak, I don't think, and it's still with me now. So fair play to you to rise above it. You're a much more mature man than I. Are we going for your Cam? You're a centre attacking midfielder.
Yeah. So Jensen.
Here's Stewart. Another nice ball. Here's Jensen. And it's cannon back off him, and it's in! Weaver was off his line. It's a freak goal, but it's 4 for Charlton. Klaus Jensen, well, he deserves to get on the score sheet for his industry and his work rate. No wonder he's smiling. He can't believe his luck. It cannoned back from the defender's clearance, and Weaver didn't have a prayer.
Say what you want about the Arsenal lob that he scored. That is my favourite Jensen goal. It's insane.
No, I was wondering why he put it. I was thinking surely he's got to put the lobbings. That's what everyone thinks of when they think of Klaus Jensen. Yeah, no, that's one of them goals. It's just an anomaly, isn't it? It's just not going to happen again. It's just a very lucky goal. What a player. Charlton Zidane. That's what. Just because of the ball in, like the talent on the ball. Like, obviously nowhere near as good, but in my eyes, the kids, he was the man, weren't he? He was just a special player, and I think he is what a lot of people see, like a 10, a Cam. He was that sort of player. He could, bring the ball anywhere on the pitch. He could bring people into the game. He had a goal in him. Just a real special player, Jensen was. So that was again another one. It was a no-brainer. I was always going to try and figure out a way to get him in. That's why I went for the 4-2-3-1 over your typical 4-4-2s or 4-3-3s. I thought that's the formation that gets him in the team, and I thought, that'd be the main man in my team. That'd be if I was a manager, I'm like, the play comes for him. That's that. Yeah, he decides what's happening on the day. So yeah, really, really good player. Lucky to have him.
I mean, this shows how little I know about football, because I never fancied him. For me, he was keeping out John Robinson, and I was like, how can anyone be keeping out John Robinson? Like, this guy works like an absolute workhorse, whereas Klaus Jensen had that sort of swagger, that sort of took his time a bit more technical. For me, I just wanted people to bash into people. That's all I wanted. I wanted work.
Fair enough.
My dad liked, and I always saw Jensen as being this kind of a sort of luxury player, if you like. But when you look back on some of the stuff he did, no one else in the Charlton shirt was doing that at the time.
No, they couldn't. There wasn't anyone else, and that's why I made sure in my team that I put those sort of players around him. So you'll see with the rest of it as well. But that's why the left back and the right back are sort of solid no-nonsense defenders. I've got a no-nonsense centre back. Kij is that DM. Parker is like an all-action, like let's say 8. So I've deliberately picked players that enable Jensen as well as can play a bit of football as well. So yeah, I truly did. That was the person I thought, right, he's got to go in. And I need, obviously, you'll see the striker soon. But I need someone that enables that striker and someone that keeps the game ticking. And there's only one person I can think of, and it was Jensen. So top player.
It's a solid choice. I mean, and again, obviously he's been chosen a lot. We've spoken about him a lot, but all I can say is that I don't think he was a patch on John Robinson. So there you go. Right, your front three. Who we starting with?
We'll go this side first. So Lookman in the left attacking mid role.
That video goes on for about 4 minutes, and it's just highlights of Lookman. And I mean, there were some bloody big highlights. I never saw him personally, so I'll leave it to you. Why Lookman?
First of all, that song is shit, right? And that sort of music, I hate that sort of music in football, man. Like, why don't everyone stick a bit of fucking Metallica on or something, or a bit, you know what I mean, a bit of Guns N' Roses? Why is always this shit? Anyway, ignoring the music, that goal, yeah, that is. I'm not going to compare it to Mbappe, right? But that is an Mbappe special. That goal, like dragging the players wide and then dragging the keeper and hitting it like low and to the keeper's like right post. That is literally, if you watch Mbappe's highlights, he scores so many goals like that. Anyway, on to Lookman, another one where. So I used to work in Ladbrokes, right? And I used to have a guy come in called Roy, and Roy was basically like head of security or some nonsense at Charlton. So if you ever saw Katria Mir, he'd always be sitting with her. He's a really nice bloke, this Roy guy. I'd always talk to him about Charlton. And also, if you don't mind, please remind me, because I've got a story you'll probably really like about working Ladbrokes and a Charlton player coming in. But anyway, for now, so Roy, I speak to Roy a lot, and he also liked Charlton, and he'd go, oh, listen out, mate. He goes, we've got Lookman coming in, and he goes, I'm telling you, he's a real bright lad. He goes, he's really humble. He's very skillful. We haven't seen a player this good in a while, and you need to watch out for him. I'm like, oh, that sounds good. I'll give him a watch then, sort of thing. And I went to my next game, and I'm not going to lie to you, I can't remember, but if I'm not mistaken, I think it was a Tuesday evening game, and Lookman just lit up the place. He was unbelievable, and it's just like, it's again like it's similar to Gomez in the sense that you've got a player who's mature beyond his years. He's not arrogant. He's not walking around like he's got a fucking stick up his arse or anything. Like, he just come across like a nice humble lad because he just come from Waterloo, I think it was, right? So he come from like non-league. He clearly liked the opportunity he had, or was grateful for it rather. And he just played with I love players that play without fear, and he was the very definition of that. He didn't give a shit who he's up against Lookman. He just ran at people, and that is what you pay your money for at the end of the day. As much as I love watching players like Dobbo and Kids who just like crunch people, I also like to watch players like CBT and Lookman who can just make people look absolutely shit at football. And Lookman did that on a weekly basis for us. And I just think if you look at where Lookman's ended up since leaving us, obviously had a big move to Everton. Didn't quite work out for him. Went on loan to Leipzig, who are a fantastic team in their own right, and done really well there. Ended up not getting his transfer there originally, I think. I think he went back to Everton again. Didn't do too well again. Went to Leipzig. Had a bit of a spell where... Did he go to Leicester?
Leicester and Fulham, and then he ended up...
And I had a pretty decent time at Fulham again, bowl accounts. Got a bit of Brad press because he tries to do a Panenka penalty, didn't he? And fucking got bad headlines for that. But then now he's at Atlanta and he's doing very well. Like, he's very highly regarded there. And
again, sixth, aren't they? It's a sixth at the moment in Serie A. So I mean, they're doing. He's obviously playing at a really high level.
He does, exactly. And okay, maybe he's not doing as well in the Premier League because I think the modern day wingers sort of dying out in the Premier League. I think a lot of wingers, if you notice, like players like Grealish, Mahrez, they tend to sort of stop the play and then pass it back through the middle. It's a lot more intricate, isn't it? The Premier League now passing. You don't really see players who are just like monsters on the wing. I think the Premier League sort of moved on from that. You've got to be a very special player, I think, to be on the wing. Someone like Salah, for instance. So I just think maybe it doesn't suit the Prem. But in terms of like these other European leagues, I think there's a lot more. It's not as the level's not as high at defending, and I think a team like Atlanta where he gets more freedom, I think that's where he shines. And just a real good player. And again, someone that if in my fantasy team, if Jensen's not having a good day, or the other players you'll see, it's just another option for us. We can go, right, just give the ball to Lucky. Let's see what you can do. Like, it's just that sort of player. And I think every team needs that sort of option, to be honest. Yeah.
It sounds pretty solid. I mean, if you're comparing anyone in the Charlton shirt to Mbappe and saying that if you need an outlet, you've got him. I mean, we'd kill for someone like that now, wouldn't we? I mean, the closest we've got is CBT. The problem is that he can beat everyone, but you never know where the ball's going to end up. So, I mean, hopefully he signs, he stays, he comes on and he does a few more bits and pieces. But yeah, I can't remember the last player we had like Lookman that was that kind of raw talent. And like you said, he's kind of top level talent as well. I mean, CBT will do well in the Championship, I think, but I don't think he's going any further than that realistically. Whereas Lookman, I can imagine you watching him and you're going, wow, like Gomez, this guy can kind of go for as high as you want. So Lookman, a great player, great choice. Who is what are you going for? So we're going for striker, or we're going for the right side?
I'll go right attacking mid, so that's JBG, Jan Berger Munson. Ridiculous.
I mean, I'd argue a completely different style of player to Lookman. So what did Goodmanson have for you?
It's just the fact that he's a right winger that has got so much talent in his left foot and has the skill to get past. But he wouldn't necessarily beat a man like comfortably every time, but he had the ability to go past people. He put a shift in defensively. He was an absolute danger from set pieces. Like, he was so dangerous with like direct free kicks. He had really good delivery, in my opinion, from corners. We just didn't quite have the people in the box sometimes to deal with it. And I just think, again, he falls into that Charlton character of, right, we've got someone who can play a bit, but he's also a workhorse. Again, a bit of a leader to me. JBG was, I thought. I didn't think I wouldn't have, if JBG was captain the season after we got relegated, he was never going to stay, obviously. But if JBG was made captain, I wouldn't have been too surprised, because he did lead by example on the pitch, and he was quite a vocal, lads. And he was, he used to, he'd get stuck in, he'd put himself about as well. So, and the fact that he obviously went on to play for Burnley and make X amount of appearances, and
Still getting games in the Premier League.
Yeah, that's what I mean. He's had quite a decent career, to be fair. Like, again, like, maybe my standards are low, but obviously, Burnley's not exactly the summit of football, is it? But I just think if you're a consistent Premier League player, you must be doing something right. And yeah, I just think it's just a good balance, because again, it would have allowed us to switch up the play. So obviously, I've not said the striker yet, but if we did have a time where we were struggling with the 4-2-3-1, it would enable us to play a 4-4-2 flat. We could have put Lookman up top with the striker, I'll say, and then JBG could have gone out to the right wing. Then Jensen could potentially play in as like a sort of fit-in right mid or left mid. JBG is also dangerous because you put him on the left, he can use his left foot, and then you put him on the right, he can cut in. I just thought he was a really dynamic player, and I think if he's on the pitch, it allowed us to play a lot of formations in one. And the other thing is his ability on the ball as well. He weren't someone that would, put in a bad pass or, do a silly dribble, or he was just a very solid player with also a bit of class about him. And the other thing I'm going to say, which might sound kind of weird, is I like having teams where you've got players from all sort of different backgrounds and like countries and stuff. I like the fact that Charlton team would have had a South African, it would have had a Danish bloke in the whole, Icelanders.
Commercially, this team's doing so well. You're selling teams all over the world.
I know. I just love stuff. I love having like a mixture of players from different backgrounds, and I just think the idea of that, like JBG and Jensen together on that, had just been brilliant. I think, yeah.
Goodmanson, he was basically the Charlton version of David Beckham, wasn't he? Really, when you think about it, delivery, the way he worked, the workhorse he was, like, I think he's pretty much that. And I don't know if you remember, but he played in the game that England got knocked out to Iceland, and there was a little bit in me. That was my worst I've felt as a football supporter. That was the most embarrassing game of football I've ever seen. There's a little bit of me that was like, yeah, but at least he played for Charlton. At least that.
Yeah, it was terrible that night. I was working Ladbrokes in Eltham on that. I was working that shift, and I remember watching it. And truth be told, I was obviously pissed off. So I hate when England lose, but at the same time, because I knew we had France next, in my mind I was like, look, we were gone anyway. And the underdog in me sort of thought, I love the fact as well that I'm taking as you said, I'm taking the positives from it. I love the fact that a Charlton player got an opportunity to do something like that, and also that a nation like Iceland will remember that forever. Like, they will remember that is a moment for them. They'll always remember the time they beat England in a knockout tournament, because it was a complete, it was a what do you want to call it, like an upset, let's say. And so I'm always someone who, even though I try not to never get too angry, like because I think some people can get like, they can milk their anger a little bit. I try and stay level-headed when I can. And on reflection, I thought, well, we're probably going to win the whole thing anyway. Iceland got a good little run out of it, and it deserves its right for being shit at football. So it was a bad night, but if there was anyone who's going to knock us out, at least it was Jan Berger Munson, and at least it was a Charlton boy, as you say.
Yeah,
So
I mean, he was a quality player. He's one player that really stuck out for me at that time. I just remember going and watching him and him doing kind of not making mistakes, which was refreshing, definitely. So your striker, one on his own, up there on top, best ever striker for Charlton, as according to your team. Who have you gone for?
yeah, Darren Bentley.
Ryderson has flipped it on, and Darren Bent is closing in on goal. Brilliant from Bent. Well, Charlton are enjoying that goal, but not half as much as Birmingham and West Brom are enjoying it.
What a cool game this is. We needed some magic, and he's come up. It's a Ryderson who's been staying up for the last couple of minutes, but once he gets it out of his feet, what a strike. The power, the accuracy, it's in the back of the net.
Cleared by Hughes. And Bent will chase, and he could get there ahead of Malchiot. It's Darren Bent! It's 2-0 Charlton! The points are theirs!
Classic couple of goals there.
Just unbelievable player, unbelievable. Another one. As a younger lad, so I just absolutely idolised him. I know Ben he went with us like that long compared to other Charlton players, but
68 appearances. It's not like it was. It wasn't a short time, but it wasn't. Yeah, it wasn't the longest period.
Yeah. Obviously, we've had some real legendary strikers play for us by some people's eyes. So obviously, you've got Derek Hales, Fermani. You've got Clive Mendonca. Yeah, Mendonca was one of my options as well, because if you look back at how consistent he was for us, and I stand by this as well today, I truly think that what happened with Mendonca at Wembley, right? And I don't believe in ghosts or spirits, anything like that. I think a dead footballer from the past who was the best striker in the world basically possessed Mendonca that day and has decided I'm playing football for him, because Mendonca was good, but he scored,
3 of the best goals Charlton have ever scored.
Just unbelievable finishes in such a high, such a high stakes game against his home, his city team in Sunderland. Scored the penalty as well. Just everything about performance was just like, yeah, this is at that point, right? In my opinion, he was the best player in the world. I think if you can play that every day, you're the best player. Like, no doubt, you're the best player in the world. It was just a special performance. Unfortunately, again, I was too young, because obviously that was 1998.
Yeah.
Hadn't even become a Charlton fan at that point, truth be told. Obviously, I was 2 years behind. But obviously, I've watched the game back numerous times. I've seen his performance, and when I'm on a bad day, I will watch it. So yeah, that Mendonca performance just unbelievable. So it was really hard not to have him in. But obviously, I associated Darren Bent a bit more, and I think Darren Bent would have fitted into the team I've presented more. And I just think because of that pace he had, it was too hard to leave out. Like, he just had he was lightning rapid player. So
I think you're right. I think if you had to choose between the two of them, although Mendonca probably did it for longer for Charlton, Bent did it for longer in his career and also played at that higher level. He was at the Premier League pretty much all of his career. The Sunderland beach ball helped him. Yes, he did maybe hit the heights he could have hit. But for me, him not going to the World Cup and Walcott getting in over him is one of the biggest travesties to ever happen to Charlton. Like, to think that he was the best, the highest scoring English player at that time, and he didn't go. I was devastated, because I just thought, well, we're never going to get a striker that's good enough for England. And I think that with Mendonca, what you had was a player who he had so much skill and ability, but he never quite did it at the Premier League level because of an injury, unfortunately. Because I think he would have, if he'd have stayed fit that season, him and Hunt up front together for a long period of time, I don't think they'd have been in stopping us. I reckon, we could have had something really special. But yeah, I mean, again, Bent's, other than one person, Bent and Parker are the two players that have been in every team, and it's really hard to argue that they wouldn't be in there. So let's have a look at it. Let's look at your team on paper. So yeah, I mean, the only thing I'd say, this is kind of the shape you gave it to me in. Looking at it there, I think it looks a little bit defensive. I don't know what you think looking at it on paper there. Would you move anyone around at all? What do you reckon of it now?
No, I definitely stick to my guns because I feel like I look at it and I think you've got the two fullbacks who are just, workhorses, and they make up for, as you said, Jensen's like a luxury player essentially, and so could Lookman be as well, to be fair. So they're sort of, I've picked those fullbacks deliberately because they sort of enable the players in front of them to have that luxury with a bit more freedom. Bent's sort of there just for his pace and the fact that he could play as a lone striker, and he could, play off the shoulder on a centre back. Jensen's there to obviously give him send those passes through. Obviously Scott Parker as well. He was very good at those long balls over the top. Could send a player. Honestly, that's. I mean, don't get me wrong. It's probably not the best Charlton 11 you could pick because I've definitely picked players through favouritism. Highlights definitely being like Goodmanson, Fish, probably Lookman as well. To be fair. But I think there's a good balance there where you've got goals in Lookman, Bent, and Goodmanson and Jensen. Parker can't have a goal. You've got goals at the back. Well, Gomez never actually scored a goal, but I wouldn't be surprised if Powell scored or Fish scores every now and then. Mainly it's that front four. That's where your goals are. I'm sure it gives us options as well. Like we're dangerous at set pieces. We're pretty dangerous on the wings in terms of like long range efforts. Like Goodmanson wouldn't be afraid to shoot from range, neither would Jensen. Lookman definitely score outside the box. And I just think it enables us to play on the front foot, that team, because Bent would obviously just be able to make out any run a player picks him for. And if we were under pressure a little bit, we've got Bent waiting in the wings and Lookman to counter attack, and that's just two players with like electric pace. Like they're both just rapid. So I tried to pick like a balanced team and the one that wouldn't lose away from home either. I think 4-2-3-1.
You're not losing many games. That team isn't losing many games. Definitely not. Definitely not. I think I'd be surprised if many of the back four pop up because considering I think Powell got 2 or 3, Fish got 3, Gomez didn't score, Young got 2. I mean, I think you're being generous.
I'm being generous there. It would be very unlikely.
But I'll tell you what it does. They open teams up. What I like about it more than anything is that you've got a real good balance of you've got Sam Bartram, who you've never seen, just seen the clips, but it's real traditional, and Gomez, who was there for a blink of an eye and then goes on and plays for clubs after us. I mean, to say Gomez is a Charlton legend is a very difficult thing, but to say he's one of the best centre-backs we've ever had, you can definitely say it's a real good balance across that. So the tough question now, and I haven't primed you for this, if you have to swap one of these players for one of the players in the current squad, who do you swap? So what player from our current squad, if you had to, would you put into this team?
Yeah, that is tough because the only options are CBT, May, and Dobbo, and I can't replace May with Bent. That's just absolutely ludicrous. So it goes down to those two. I'm going to say, this might be weird, but I'm actually going to say CBT over Lookman. And because I think that Dobson wouldn't be able to do what Parker or Kinshev could do in midfield. He would not be able to have their work rate steadfast, like as much as I rate him. So I think he might get overdone a little bit in a two-man double pivot. So yeah, it'd be Blackett Taylor, just for the fact that he can play. He's both footed. I think pace and skills sort of transition quite well to whatever league you play in. It comes down to the player's confidence at the end of the day, and I don't think he's lacking in it. I think with better players around him, he'd get a lot more freedom to do what he can do best. And I think when he actually sends balls in the box, there'll be players that are actually capable of getting on the end of it. So yeah, I think I'd go CBT, swap for Lookman. But again, it just sounds ridiculous because Lookman was. I love CBT, but Lookman's a lot better than him, to be honest. So
yeah, but like if we had,
but if we had to.
What you really want is for someone to say, right, you can have any of those players and they can play on Saturday for you. That's the way you want it.
No, certainly.
That's been brilliant. I've really appreciated that, Charlie. How have you? Did you find? I know you found it tough. How was the experience as a whole? You okay now? You settled? You're not going to be waking up for and having nightmares in the next couple of weeks. Like, how did I not put him in Donker? What have I done to it?
I thought you meant about my life in general. No, because that could apply as well. No. So I'm happy with it. I'd probably check. Know me, so I'm not as decisive. I probably would change a few things, but if that was Charlton's team tomorrow, I wouldn't need to drive to the Valley. I'd probably walk. You know what I mean? I wouldn't. I'd go there any means necessary to get there. So
yeah,
I've really just got to say, just before you go, so I really like telling this story. Yeah, and I will make it quick. I promise you.
Oh,
so we spoke about not recognizing players and obviously players before our time, all that stuff. So when I worked in Ladbrokes, right, as well as meeting Roy every day, who's the security guy at Charlton, I was taking this gentleman's bets called Colin, right? And I knew nothing about him, and he'd just come in and we'd talk every time. And I remember him just saying to me once, he was like, "Oh, who do you support, lad?" And I'm like, "Oh, I'm a Charlton fan." He goes, "Oh, are you?" I went, "Yeah, I fucking love Charlton." Da-da-da. And he goes, "Oh, yeah, so am I." I'm like, "Okay." So we started talking about Charlton every time he come in. He'd always put his bets on. He'd always do like a little lucky 15. I don't know if you're like, do you know what I mean in gambling, or lucky 15 or lucky
accumulator
31?
type thing, or-
Yeah, like accumulator sort of thing, multiple bets. And then he'd go, "Actually, Charlton got the other day, lads." I'm like, "Yeah, they were great." Da-da-da. And then things started going. I started getting inkling of what he'd done for work. Anyway, so I was sitting there one day and he came in. I'd done my bets as normal. I had my chat with him. And my manager, who's very savvy at football, he was an Arsenal fan and he was older than me. He was about 40 or about 50, I think. So he knew about all our players and stuff. And he just, when Colin walked out, he sort of went, "I'm surprised when he walks in, you don't make more of a big deal out of it, to be honest with you." And I'm like, "Well, why would I do that?" He's like, "Mate, that's Colin, pal." I'm like, "I don't know who that. I don't know." He goes, "Are you joking me?" He goes, "No, Colin Powell's." I'm like, "Well, obviously I've heard of him, but why the fuck? I don't recognise the sort of thing." It's like, "Mate, he was literally your groundskeeper for however long. He's made like 300 appearances with Charlton. He's like a fucking Charlton legend, and like you talk to him every day, and you say to him like, how Charlton getting on? Of course he fucking knows how Charlton are getting on." And I just always find that like amazing because like
Yeah.
like to someone else, I've seen it on Charlton forums. I've seen it Charlton fans talk about Colin Powell. He's held in like a really, really high regards, and like
Yeah.
a lot of
It's
people are
like Gareth
privileged to meet
Bale,
him.
isn't it? That kind of legend. Sam Bartram probably as well. I think what
Yeah.
I wanted to do with this kind of channel is speak to different generations of fans.
Yeah.
Because it's amazing speaking to you and Louis. We're sort of similar age, so we've got kind of a similar sort of feeling of the players we grew up with. But you speak to Tyler or Joshua, they've only known it the last like 10 years, really. So, like, fucking, not only have you picked up players that you didn't see the playoff final team, so you don't know what they were like, but also why the fuck have you stuck with it? It's been this shit for so long. But then I can imagine those fans that were there when we were signing Ballon d'Or winners, like we don't know anything. And then you got the people who were there when we won the FA Cup. So
it's bonkers, truly. And I don't know if you saw my Wigan vlog, but at the start, these old boys, and they were like, they couldn't wait to say it. Like at the start, they were sort of like, they didn't know I wasn't rolling yet, right? So I was in the interview, didn't know I was rolling. They were like, and one was like, "I saw Sam Bartram and Eddie Fermani play," sort of thing. I was like, "It's not rolling yet, mate." But then when it started, he kept on going on about it. He's like, "I've watched Eddie Fermani play," and I was, because in my head it's not that big a deal, but back then these have been like really top players, you know what I mean? And I'd highly suggest you try and find a older Charlton fan, like you're talking 70s or what have you, because they've probably got so much to talk about. I love talking to older football fans because they've got a bit of a biased perspective, admittedly, like because they'll try and say things like, modern players would struggle back then, which obviously I slightly disagree with. I think that you can bring your skill set to most levels if you're confident enough, but it's just fascinating to talk to people that have watched every sort of level of Charlton. They've watched us when we're very shit, when we're a middle range club, when we've been at our top end, and it's really good to sort of pick their brain.
What's amazing is that they don't give us any credit for how shit we are now, because they were there when we didn't have a ground at all. And we don't know what shit is, sort of thing. But
they're like suck it up, essentially. That's
the beauty of it. That's the beauty of football, isn't it? And long may it continue. Mate, thank you so much for coming on. Where can people find you? Where should they look out for you? What are they? Where can they follow you? What can they do?
All good, Sam. First of all, if anyone's still watching, obviously keep watching Sam's stuff. He's a really nice bloke, and I've really enjoyed talking to him. And I felt really comfortable talking to him, and that's really important as a host. So yeah, definitely keep watching Sam's stuff. My stuff is, if you're interested, obviously it's Brazilliance. Well, like my name says there, if you can see it, and I'd sort of upload weekly if I can make it to the game, which I normally do. And that's it, really. If you want to read a loud guy's thoughts on Twitter and a moany fucker, it's Big Bad Braz, BIGBAD BRAZ on Twitter. That's where you can find me. Cheers.
I look forward to seeing all the different versions if you do go into the other sort of hosting stuff for different things. But the match day vlogs are amazing, mate. I really appreciate them when I'm not able to get to the game. You know, you talking about what it's like and how the drive's been, and you know, talking to the fans and what it's like in the stadium, that kind of thing. It gives a real flavour of the day, which is great. And it'll be interesting to go back to that in a couple of years' time. Hopefully, when we're doing much better, or we've out of business completely, and go, yeah, I remember what it was like. Mate, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Like, subscribe, and we'll chat soon. Thanks, mate.
Nice one. Cheers, Sam.